out of my belly shall flow rivers of living water. Kadosh, 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 Kadosh. Kadosh, 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 Kadosh.
Looks like a toothbrush. I love letter F, be it big or small. F is very happy.
Ah, good. A little harder. Ah.
Friends! The animal agent team needs you!
Faith Today TV is here to make your brand outstanding. Worry not on where to advertise your business or your product. Call us on 0114 777 000 or email us on info@faithtodaytv.co.ke.
Mountain Moving Faith. This is my latest book. And if you want to learn how you can move mountains, life has many mountains. While this journey, you will encounter mountains and you wonder, how can I move mountains? This is a book to read. And it took me time to research, to pray, and to wait on God and look at the scriptures and what Jesus talked about moving mountains. And this book is quite a story, it's quite an inspiration. It is quite something that will change your life. So order your copy today. We can send it to you wherever you are in this country. We will be able to send this book to you on Mountain Moving Faith. Call that number or send a message and our team will be able to ship it to you wherever you are. There's a book to read. You can also buy for your friend, for a family as a gift. And I have no doubt they will thank you and they will be always thankful for what you have done for them. So God bless you as you read this book, Mountain Moving Faith.
Welcome to Kingdom Business Network. This is a program that brings you business tips on strategies on how you can be able to better manage your business. We want to welcome you this day to watch us either on Faith Today Television, on Facebook, or on YouTube. In case you're watching us on social media, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll be glad because it will help us with the algorithm. We have been discussing about personal finance with Dr. Washington Kahoro, and today we want to continue from where we left last time, and today we want to tackle the issue of budgeting. Budgeting is such a critical area in life because it determines the choices that you're going to make that are going to help you in your savings, in your planning for investments, and also even in your retirement. So it's really a very, very important topic. And to help us unpack that is Dr. Washington Kahoro. Welcome, Dr. Washington.
Thank you, Dr. Mungai. It's my pleasure and honor to be here back again.
Yes.
I'm happy to share a few tips with our viewers in as far as budgeting is concerned. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
How has been your week?
Good. My week has been good. Of course, trying to balance a lot of things, but when I think about what we are doing here, I feel greatly honored and that we are doing such a good job to help the people of God. So really just looking forward to being here the next 1 hour.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Washington. And my co-host, Enoch. Enoch, you can introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. I'm so happy and blessed to be here on this show today. And my name is Enoch from House of Faith. It's such a warming moment to host once again our dear Dr. Washington here. Today, we can't really get enough of you. I am very sure that our lives will never remain the same, never ever again. And of course, I want to remind us, by the way, today is the International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. Yeah, so it's a good platform to spread awareness to our viewers out there, because the other day we were reading at statistics and they are showing more than 500,000 women are suffering from the same in sub-Saharan Africa. And most of them are suffering because they don't have access to health facilities. You can imagine it's quite a challenging issue, but I'm happy to also bring to you the awareness of our hospital, a faith-based hospital, just right here at your service, JCK Hospital in Roysambu along Lumumba Drive. So in case you need any obstetric care or plan on how to go through the motherhood and pregnancy, things like that, to avoid fistula and all that, please be aware of the facilities that are around you. And I'm also excited today now to learn about budgeting, because as a young man, we are really failing so much in the area of budgeting. Now, having an expert today to enlighten us more on how we can now deal with that, it's going to help us in this year of breaking all barriers. Financial success is a must. And now, if you really stick with us up to the very end, I'm very sure there's so much that you are going to be able to absorb today by the grace of God. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Enoch.
Yes.
I want to turn to Dr. Kahoro. What is budgeting or budget planning, and who should plan, or rather budget? Is it an organization? Is it an individual? Is it everybody? Is it the young people only, or people who are very rich? You know, unpack that to us, because
Yes.
might start discussing a topic and somebody is saying, that's not for me, that's for corporations, or people who are very much moneyed. What is budgeting?
Good, thank you, Dr. I think first things first, budgeting is a very important component of our lives. And I'm happy to say, as we go to the basics today, thinking about budgeting. Budgeting is basically planning and prioritizing your spending. So we are saying that if you're going to think about the money that you expect, either at the end of the month or whichever frequency, then if you can think about it before it comes, how you will spend it by prioritizing, then we are saying that you're budgeting. Simply put.
So how you'll spend it?
How you will spend it.
Okay.
Good. And while we are at that, Dr. We look at three very important aspects of budgeting. And there could be more, but I'll look at three for a start. One, there are a lot of people who think that budgeting is very difficult. And we want to unpack a few things for our viewers today, that you necessarily don't have to look at budgeting as a punishment. There are people, when they are within a family setup, and the wife brings up an issue or the husband brings up an issue, my dear, I think we need to start planning our spending. Then in many homes, it becomes a source of conflict because there is little understanding of what budgeting exactly is. So as we start off the discussion, would want to note first that to budget is not to punish. You're not being punished by being asked to plan how to spend the money. And for a lot of families, we want to show that it is something that is positive. It's something that you can adapt. You can start slowly and build it up to a very a great level where you are able to follow systematically exactly what you have planned to spend. Secondly, for me, when we talk about budgeting, we're saying you will hear there is a national budget. When you go to churches, they budget for the money. When you go to schools, they budget for the money. And so many other places. And so budgeting is the way. Mm-hmm. And since we say that the community starts at home, why not start where it matters? If we can build churches and do a very good job, if we can build the country by outlining how we are going to run with the expenses and the expenses especially, and where we are going to get the income, why not do it at home and do it very well? Thirdly for me is to say that budgeting is possible. We have many stories of many people I have listened to while I have been advocating about this. I have had people who say, I started, I fell out. I tried, it brought a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. So today we want to probably look at, in a simple way, how you would start the journey of budgeting under no pressure, and then build it up to a systematic thing that you can always think about as a whole, as an individual, and be able to realize the benefits of budgeting. While we are at that, you see, you have heard of organizations, you have heard of the government say, we have spent 200 million shillings under this vote head, and we don't have any more available money. Or even if we are going to have money available, we have to go into thinking about where will this money come from. For governments, you will hear them coming with an extra budget, and it has to be debated. And this is the kind of a thing we want to think about. So yes, I have spent 20,000 shillings. I ought to have spent 20 by the end of the month, but it is the 20th and I have spent 20,000. It is not a punishment, and it is also not a bad thing when you have to go back to the discussion table and ask your spouse, ask your children, ask whoever you're organizing with, what do I need to do about the next 10 days? So that is a discussion that we are going to delve into. So those three primary points to think about even as we embark on budgeting.
Wonderful. Enoch, when you look at the young people,
Yes.
do they budget? And if they do, how is it easy for them? Do they have the discipline to budget? What's their thought of budgeting?
Well, thank you so much. That's a wonderful question. I want to believe that the reason why most of them are having challenges financially, it is because of probably budgeting. You know, the challenge us growing up in school, we are not taught about financial management and budgeting. That is something that I will honestly tell you, we are not taught that. So having this discussion today, I'm sure it is going to help us realign our mindset, our priorities. You talked about priorities.
Yes.
I think having it now at this level, as we grow up, as we get into business, as we get the money coming, Bishop talks about priorities. I love the way he brings the analogy of when tourists come to Kenya, they come focused on the big five. You know, they want to find out the big five. So it doesn't mean that they do not look out for other things that are maybe the zebras, the giraffes, the others that are in Kenya, but they mainly focus on the big five. Yes, they will see other things, but they mainly focus on the big five. So I want to understand and also suggest that we need to hear more on how to really budget our lives and also carry on with our finances, because that is something that, I will be honest with you, it's not taught in schools. Having Kingdom Business Network here, explaining to us more so in church, it is going to be very helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Daktari, tell us, what are some practical tips on reducing debt and improving your financial health? Because I tend to believe that budgeting will start by how you can start reducing your debt.
Yeah.
Before we delve into budgeting proper.
All right, thank you, Daktari. So very important that we take care of our debts. Debts can really get you into trouble. And I have just figured out a number of ways that we can practically look at how you get out of debt. Number one, when you are in debt distress, because when you get yourself to that level where you're not able to manage your debts, then we arguably say that you are in debt distress. So number one, you need to avoid new debts.
Okay.
Yeah, you have seen in our country, our president talk about a debt distress situation. When you are in a debt distress situation, that is not the time to run for another debt to pay off the old debts, which is what a lot of people imagine they can do, or sometimes because they have no idea, they many times acting out of maybe a lack of knowledge, then they go for bigger loans, probably that have higher interests, and they get into more problems. So number one thing we are saying, if you have to practically get out of debt, you have to stop taking new debts. And this is how people get into debt. So today, they are paying a loan from a Shylock. The Shylock is on their back, and they're feeling the heat. And so they decide they will go to a second Shylock, probably fix a particular collateral and take up another debt. And many times, because they are in distress, they are not thinking what are the consequences of taking another debt that probably has a higher interest. So we're saying, number one, to be very disciplined is to make sure that you are not taking another debt on top of a distressed debt. So we are not saying that you don't take another debt over another debt, okay, or a debt over another debt. We're saying you don't take a debt over a distressed situation.
How do you survive?
How do you survive? Very good question.
Before you go to that.
How do you survive?
Because there's some people who survive on debts.
Yes, yes.
Because they borrow from Tom to pay Harry, from Harry to pay Mary.
Yes.
And that's all they know, you know. So when you tell them not to borrow, you need to tell them how do they do to prevent that borrowing cycle.
In fact, actually, to add on that, you talked about a term Shylock.
Yes.
You know, we as young people, we don't want to be in the dark.
Yes.
We literally value now this time. Maybe you can also throw more light on that.
Yes, on the Shylocks. Yes. And Shylocks are many times individuals or organizations that will give quick loans, quick debts, but at very high interest rates. So they are not necessarily regulated, and that is why they can ask for as much as they want. When you go to the commercial banks, then you realize that you will not get an unregulated debt. So we are saying in a situation where there is no regulation, and it is based on how I think somebody is going to be repaying the loan or how I want them to repay, then we are saying you're getting the money out of Shylocks. Many times individuals or just companies that are not into banking. Good. So I mentioned that no more taking of debt.
Yes.
Now, I want you to figure out a situation where you have taken out a loan or loans with banks, and you have been listed at CRB. And the bank, every other time you go to Bank A, you go to Bank B, they ask you for your credit listing, for your credit rating. They pull out a report, and you realize, or they realize, that you cannot get more financing. What do you do? A good question. What do you do? You have to figure out other ways of meeting your expenses without having to borrow from the bank. Because for sure, the bank says they will not lend you any more money. Truthfully speaking, we don't go and steal. You know, we don't break into our neighbors. We don't do bad things, but we have to think. So a no debt situation makes you think. That is where I want us to get to. Okay. You have to figure out on how to increase your income without necessarily having to borrow.
Increasing your income.
Increasing your income. Okay. So the alternative to not borrow is to live within your means, number one, and two, figure out a way of increasing your income.
I like that.
Yes, very important. And when you find yourself in a debt distress situation, there is nothing to be ashamed about. I'm about to mention the second thing. So we said no more debt.
Yeah.
Number 2, find out help. Find help of how you can come out of a debt distress situation. A lot of Kenyans today are suffering by themselves, seated in the house, others with families breaking apart, and yet they cannot talk about their debt situation. So we are saying, yes, it is not a very comfortable situation to be in, but you don't have to die alone. So number 2 thing I want to suggest, to get out of a bad debt or to get out of debt distress, get someone, get an organization, somebody that you trust, that are professional in this area, or somebody that you can just speak to. Because one of the things that debt can bring is a lot of stress. A debt distress situation can bring a lot of stress. And you will find, and we've had of many situations of people who have taken away their own lives because they are not able to deal with their own debt situation. So, and we do not want people to run away from their families. People to do, things that are uncomfortable to ones that love them and cherish them, just as they are trying to run away from debt. So, very important, find out if there is help. Number 3 for us here, when we are looking at getting out of debt, as you're getting to know somebody you can talk to, now have a list of all the debts that you need to pay. So somebody will say, hey, I am so stressed up because I have 200,000 shillings to pay. And while to this person who is heavily indebted, they see an impossible situation. If you are able to itemize, have a list of the particular debts that you have. Say, I have a shopping debt of 20,000 out of the 200,000. I have not been able to pay my mortgage for the last 3 months. I have a debt of 60,000. I have not been able to pay my, I've not been able to meet my regular expenditure. Say you need to buy your mother's drugs or your father's drugs, and you know that there is a shop that you normally pick with a promise to pay at the end of the month, and you know that you have not paid. So the medicine stock has exhausted, and yet you need to supply more. You need to supply a little more, or supply just a regular medicine stock for your parent, and you're not able to. So you're already getting into a lot of trouble. So we're saying, figure out by a list on how much debt that you have. Now, how does that help? It helps to give you emotional strength as you take out one debt after the other. You start with the hard pressing debts. So debts with Shylocks, debts that have a negative subsequence. Somebody will tell you that if you have not paid, or somebody will say, if you have not paid your mortgage for the last 3-4 months, then you are in a situation where the banks can send an auctioneer. So we are saying that is a debt situation that is consequential negatively. So you need to list those debts. The ones that have least consequence are supposed to be paid last.
Like the debt to your mom.
Yes, like dad. The debt to your mom, to your dad.
Can always understand.
And those ones, they will not be in a hurry to take you to jail. But you know that there are some debts that you owe certain people or certain organizations or certain financial organizations. And you know that the consequence is that you might lose your house, you might lose your car, and so on and so forth. Debts that are attached to collaterals, because they could lead to further losses. You're already in a debt situation, and we are saying if you're not able to furnish this debt, then it might end up with you losing your house, losing your car, losing your valuables here and there. So those are the debts to take care of within that list. So we are saying list your debts. Do not be ashamed to say that I owe this person A, person B, I owe this bank, I owe the Shylock, blah, blah. So that even as you go to discuss it with an individual or with an organization that can help you, with a consultant like myself, then we are saying, can we look at a practical way of first settling this one that can cause some negative consequence. Very important. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Now, how do you create a budget plan?
Good. Thank you, Dr. Mungai, once again. So, how do we create a budget plan? Number one, that's very important. You have to create a buying record. Very important. That is step number one. What does that mean? You have to know where you purchase your items.
Okay.
Very important. So, like I see in our home, my wife and I decide for the groceries, we will go to the big markets like Githurai. We'll go to a market that will offer us good prices. For example, when you're talking about cereals, then you have to mark out a shop, an outlet that will be able to give you these items at good prices. Now, so you have set out what you call creating a buying record. Where you buy things is very important.
Okay.
Number two, you collate and summarize your expenses.
Okay.
Collate and summarize your expenses. So collating would mean putting together expenses that are related. For example, when you talk about school, then I know I have to pay the school fees. I know I have to pay my children. I have to buy my children's uniforms. I have to buy their books. I have to pay their school transport and so on and so forth. So that is collating. So that collectively then, in a snapshot, I can tell towards my children's education, I'm going to spend 50,000 shillings the next 3 months. And therefore, I can break it into 16,300 shillings per month.
Okay.
So that is collating. And we're also saying the bigger picture is summarizing. So put it down. So I have said there are expenses that I'm going to have in the house of God. So I am going to give my tithe. I help the needy. I know I am going to support mission and evangelism. I know. So I have summarized it. And you know, we can have quite a good way of putting them down. You can start with the priorities. We said last time in our program, you need to give to God. There is no doubt about it. Number two, how do you pay self? Okay? So we talked about savings, which we shall be delving in a different program, how to save, how to invest, how to put aside money for retirement. Thirdly, we are saying then we can also look at housing. So we have said giving to God, paying yourself. Remember we said that it's very important that you can pay yourself first. Then we're saying take care of your housing costs. Yeah, and while we are talking about housing, it's about your rent, it's about your mortgage, it's about anything. Say you have a child who is in the university and they have to pay for their hostels, all that. If you have categorized it within the housing needs, you have to buy your food for your family. Very important. Where do you buy your cereals? Where do you buy your greens, and so on and so forth? You have to look at transportation, fuel for your car, or if you don't have a car for now, how do you get to the various destinations that you have to? So I have to know that I spend 5,500 shillings on a weekly basis on my fuel. My wife spends this much. For my children, my child is in the university and they have to spend this much. So please summarize it, put it down. Healthcare needs, it is not lack of faith to say that I am going to plan for my healthcare. So take out a medical insurance scheme, put it within the budget, or put out a fund, a health fund. So I have 5,000 worth of a health fund every month. So should I be in a flu situation or whatever it is, then I'm taking care of this. Then, of course, schooling is another very important aspect of our budgeting. In that planning, lastly for me, we'll be looking at recreation, within that budgeting plan. So you have to, it's important. It's important that you can also have an easy time, especially with your family. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can go to places where basically it is not as expensive as all the other places that we are seeing in malls and all that. But then if you can afford within the mall situation, fine, you go for it.
Yes. So you've created all these line items.
Yes.
At what point do you then, remember last time we talked about having 20% savings?
Yes.
Do you put it in the budget or where do you put it?
Very good. So the 50-30-20 principle is a general principle.
Okay.
Is a general principle. And this is how we apply the 50-30-20 principle. Number one, we said the 50% within the 100 goes to the needs. It goes to those things that you cannot do away without. The things that will bring a lot of stress to the family in case they are not being able to be achieved. We are talking about housing. We are talking about transport. We are talking about clothing for your family. So those mainly will fall within the needs. Those things that if you don't have, you cannot live. You cannot live outside home. And that is why when we had floods the other day, so long as people don't have a house to put a bed to lay on, then it's a very serious situation. So the needs. Number two, 30% takes care of the wants. The things that are important but are not a must.
Okay.
Okay? So let's say you could have a want like we eat out once in a week. Okay? So we are eating. So we can choose not to eat out. Eat within the house. That means we reduce on the cost of the transport if we have to ferry ourselves to that particular location. Or maybe decide we are going to go to a place where we can spend less. Yeah, so very important. So that is within the want. So the things that are important in the house and they are not a must.
Okay.
I cannot cite a second example. You'd find you go to the supermarket and you get cake, you get bread, you get all these things for breakfast. Okay, so you can decide this time round we are going to buy sweet potatoes, which we can boil in the house, and it still be good breakfasts. So without having to, so you save on the money for buying the big time bread and cakes and crackers and so on and so forth. So that is within the wants. Then lastly for me is a savings aspect. So the 20% is a savings, investment and retirement. Very important, which we shall be tackling as a full topic, but an area that is very important, that once you have taken care of your needs, you have taken care of your wants, you don't stop there. You have to think about tomorrow. And when we're talking about tomorrow, we are thinking about short-term savings, we're talking about middle-term savings, and we're also talking about long-term savings, fitting within the 20%.
Wonderful. Yes. Before we take our break, because we are supposed to take a short break shortly, let me break it down to the viewer, and maybe you can agree or disagree with me. Okay. Assuming somebody is earning 50,000 shillings, that's the salary.
Yes.
And that's what we are budgeting for. It's very important for the viewer to understand you're not budgeting for money you don't have. Yes. You're budgeting for money that you have. You're budgeting for your income. So assuming you are earning 50,000, that means if you apply the 50-30-20 rule, the 50% will be for your needs.
Yes.
And 50% of 50,000 is 25,000. Because it's half of that.
Yes.
That means this 25,000 then needs is then whereby you have to have housing, food, transportation.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because if somebody will come and ask you, what type size of a house should I live in if I'm earning about 50,000?
Yes.
Already, you only have 25,000 shillings to play around with.
Yes.
That has to be your rent, has to be your food, has to be your transport, your clothing. So you can do the maths.
Yes.
Might be you might not afford a house more than 10K.
Yes. And you see what
it will be around 10, 15K at most.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, it's not 15, 10K. You know, because that's where people start failing.
Exactly.
Because somebody, it's common nature for us might be to all want a 3-bedroom house.
Yes, yes.
Or a 2-bedroom house.
Yes.
But when you look at your money, you can't afford it.
In fact, Dr. Mongai, like you're saying, if you have to live, this is what we call living within your means.
Yes.
So if your income is 50,000 shillings, I would boldly say you have no business living in a house worth 25,000 shillings.
Even
you will have
even
consumed,
15.
yes, you will have consumed all the money for everything else. And that is how now you get on to the other half. And that is why you are never going to be able to save for the future, which is also very important for us.
Unless you have got another supplementary income or a side hustle.
Yes.
Viewer, if you have a side hustle, we're not talking about that.
Yes.
But we are strictly saying that the maximum you get,
Yes.
even with your side hustle and everything, is 50,000. If you apply this rule, you'll find that there's some size of house you might not be able to afford.
Yes.
For now.
For now.
We're not saying you can't afford it forever. For now.
Yes.
Then the 30% will be for your want,
Yes.
and the 20, which is now 15,000,
Yes.
and 20%, 50, 30, 20 will be 5,000 shillings.
Yes.
So you'll only be able to save 5,000
Yes.
shillings.
Exactly.
Interesting mathematics.
And if you can save 5,000 shillings on a monthly basis, on a very regular basis, you will find out from some months we shall be doing, you will be doing pretty well. There are a lot of people today even earning 100,000 shillings, and they don't save 5,000 shillings in a month, which is quite unfortunate.
Viewer, it's very, very tough for somebody earning 50,000 shillings to save 5,000 shillings. And that's why these practical tips that we are discussing here are very, very important, because if you have to get yourself out of poverty, then you need to listen to some of these tips. It might be very harsh, but it works. God bless you. Let's take a very short break. We'll be back with Dr. Kahoro to take it from there and even now discuss further on how to create a savings plan.
Spending.
Plan. Yeah. Spending plan. Not
I wrote a book, a powerful book, that is 7 Keys to Success. All of us want to succeed. Nobody here wants to fail. I have no doubt you have a deep-seated desire how to succeed, but you wonder how. There are principles in this book. I call them keys. There are 7 of them that I have elaborated, that I have discussed in this book, and I have no doubt when you read this book, well, you will succeed. Many people have read it and they have come. The other day I met somebody who told me, well, I read your 7 keys to success and I have been teaching from that book. Actually, she's a pastor and she told me, well, I actually bought several, I have given to my leaders, to my people. You can use it also for teaching and even blessing other people in your family, church, and friends, even your place of work. 7 keys to success. I have no doubt when you read this book, you will succeed. Failure is not your place to be. You can be successful by reading 7 keys to success. Call that number, send a message, and we will respond to you and send you a copy of this book. God bless you and see you soon. Hello there, and praise be to our God. For the last 21 years, we have been rescuing abandoned babies all over this country. And by God's help, we have been able to rescue now close to 1,000 babies in this country. Well, we thank God for His enabling power. But again, I want to thank all our partners and friends of Happy Life Children's Home that have come alongside us to work with us, to help us to feed these children. Right now we have 61 babies, we have toddlers, we have some in school, we have some in primary school, in high school, school fees, vocational training, and it's not easy, but I want to ask, you can partner with us, you can help one of these children. You can be a monthly partner of any amount, whether you are a student, whether you are working, you are a parent, young people, I want to call upon each one of us. We can do something. Well, I always say nobody has everything, but everybody has something. And at Happy Life Children's Home, we have a saying, you may not change the whole world, but you can change the whole world for one child. We have a pay bill there. I want to ask you right now, please send help for these children. The pay bill is 75512. I repeat again, the pay bill number is 75512. That is 75512. That is the pay bill for Happy Life Children's Home account. You can indicate your name, and we will be more than glad to receive this help for the children, for the many, many abandoned children. Actually, our place is right now full. We cannot even take more. People are abandoning children everywhere. But I want to ask that you can work with us and also become a Happy Life friend, where you can become a monthly partner. If you want to do that, you can send a message or call that number or send a WhatsApp message, and we will be able to communicate with you and tell you how you can become a friend of Happy Life. God bless you. I invite you again, be a part of this journey. For the last 21 years, God has been faithful. You can be part of what God is doing through Happy Life Children's Home, Happy Life Mission, in educating these children and even supporting them with the food, milk, diapers, and everything that they need for their daily living. God bless you, and God bless you. The Bible says, as I close, well, he who gives to the poor lends to God. If you give to the poor, you are lending to God. And God is not a debtor of anyone. He will reward you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Once again, welcome to this program. It's quite an interesting first half. Just before we went on break, Dr. Kahoro, we were discussing about the 50-30-20% rule on how you can manage your money, and we tried to break down how you can spend or plan or budget for 50,000 Kenya shillings, assuming that's the total amount of money that you earn. And I can see there are many people sending questions, so please send your questions, we'll respond to them. And before we start responding to questions, are there any other practical ways of getting out of debt, apart from the three that you mentioned?
Yes, I think the fourth, I would say, is looking at the cause and effect way or principle, the cause and effect principle. Mm-hmm. This would mean to us that we are asking ourselves, how did we get here? Mm-hmm. And what are we experiencing now that we are here? Mm-hmm. You see, they say that only a fool continues doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Mm-hmm. So in the course we are saying we have not been very careful. And so as we are asking ourselves those difficult questions, of course, then we are also learning, like we are learning today. Mm-hmm. If you have been in a debt situation, do not be ashamed to even get to a class. Get to a class like we are in a class today, and ask difficult questions on how you're going to get there, to get out of it. Then we are saying, effect, what have you learned? Is it something that you want to learn another time? Do you want to get into trouble again? The big answer is no. Yes, no. So then we are saying that once you have learned why you are here, and what you are already in, then you're saying, I don't want to be here again. And therefore, make it a priority to live within your means, which is very important as far as clearing debt is concerned. Mm-hmm. Fifthly, I would say debt prioritizing. Mm-hmm. debt prioritization is very important if you are to practically get out of debt. So we said, however much you like it or you don't like it, you are in debt. So the only practical way to get out of debt is to prioritize to pay off those debts. As much as we don't like the feeling, as much as we are under pressure, so long as we haven't paid those debts, the pressure will remain. Or we will remain having to escape. You know, there are certain places in town you can't visit. There's a church you moved from because you know that you are indebted. You're straining in your marriage or in a family setup or whatever it is. So we are saying prioritize and slowly but surely get out of it. And you will realize that even banks and other financing organizations, so long as you're paying off the loan, even if you're making smaller payments, the pressure reduces. So a bank, you've been paying off your car loan, 50,000 shillings, you can only afford 25, go to the bank, you know, face it, prioritize, say, I am no longer able to pay the 50, I can pay 25. I can assure you, many organizations will listen to you. So debt prioritization, so that eventually you are able to do away with it. And then my last point would be a lifestyle change.
Lifestyle change.
A lifestyle change. So if you know that, like we say, the Englishman says, once bitten, twice shy. A new lifestyle altogether. And I know, unfortunately, there are some of our friends who live around shops. You know, they are looking at the next pair of shoes that is in the new mall.
Designer shoes.
The designer shoes. And all this, especially with the young people.
I know.
Yeah? So we are saying a new lifestyle altogether. Let us live within our means. Now, I have to note here that one of the most difficult things to practically do is to reduce your expenses when you have already been living large. I would also be looking at a situation of somebody has been earning 200,000 shillings, company has restructured, they have sent you out of work for the next 6 months, 1 year. Somebody does not have a regular income. And so what they are surviving on is probably half or a quarter of what they were earning. If somebody was earning 200,000 shillings a month, and now it has come down to 50,000 shillings, that probably becomes the most challenging change to make. But not mincing our words today, we are saying you must be very deliberate in adopting a new lifestyle. Call yourself maybe within the family and say, now we do not have the 200,000 shillings that we expected, we have 50, we have to adjust everything. And Dr. Mongai mentioned something towards the end of the first session, that those adjustments are not easy to make. We were talking about a spend within 50,000 shillings. For a lot of people, that 50,000 shillings was their pocket change, the money they have at the exposure to spend over a weekend. So, and these changes to a new lifestyle will include probably change of the housing. You are paying 25,000 shillings and you have to get to pay 10. You have to get to a place where you're paying 10. Your groceries were going for 5,000. You have to bring them to 2,000. You are having meat 3 days in a week. You're saying we can only afford once in 2 weeks and live by that if you do not want to get into bad debt.
I think we need to get out of the culture of fake it till you make it.
Yes.
And we embrace living within your means.
Exactly.
And also not to put ourselves under a lot of pressure, because I think for the young people especially, there's a lot of pressure, peer pressure, trying to be like so-and-so, to put on like so-and-so, to live like so-and-so.
Yeah.
And what that has developed is that we have now a culture amongst young people of debt.
Yes.
And the problem with debt is that they'll come and borrow from you, promising to return by the end of the day or by tomorrow, only never to return. And then that spoils the relationship between you two.
Yes.
you know, and a lot of people, that's how they live. They actually live on debt and breaking relationships and friendship, all because of debts. And as good Christians, we need to get out of that culture and trust God that God is able to lift us from where we genuinely are, not faking it, where we are to where He wants us to be. Now, I want to take a few questions from our viewer, and thank you very much, viewers, for engaging with us. I'll start with Neri. Neri is watching us from Zimmerman. Thank you very much, Neri. And the question to Dr. Kahoro is, how can I adjust my budget over time? As my financial situation or priorities change, what should make me review or update my budget?
Good. I think very good question. Thank you from Zimmerman. Now, we just talked about the 50-30-20 principle. It's a very important general rule that we can apply. And if I had the question right, you're asking how can I practically be able to adjust? So I would say, for a starter, just apply the rule even if you don't understand it, because we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Apply the rule. So ask yourself, is the 50 are my needs within 50%? If they are going beyond 50% of all the income that I'm having, then ask yourself tough questions. Do I really need this to remain without debts? We have talked about the 30% once. So we have said they are important, but they are not mandatory. So if there's a lifestyle that you have adopted, every Tuesday I must get myself some pizza. And you're saying, really, can I survive with bread, which is 10% of the value of the pizza? And practically then, you're looking at your expenses now and saying, what are the practical ways that I can minimize my expenditure from 20,000 to 10,000? And we said, very important, that you list. Do not assume. Do not just have it in the head. List. Make a list. Say, this is now how much I can afford to take to God's house. This is how much I can afford to put within housing. And I just listed in the first session several areas, actually 8 areas, that our monies will go to on a month-to-month basis. So practically do that, then reduce it to fit within the 50-30 rule. 50-30-20 rule, and you'll be very safe.
The key here in adjustment is trying to make sure that you fit into the 50-30-20 rule.
Exactly.
So if something doesn't fit, then you know that's a red flag.
It's a red flag.
You must work on it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Neri.
And maybe I would also say, Dr. before we move to something else, that is a bold move. It's a move that you probably don't need to ask your friends first. Yeah, you don't have to seek out your friends and, hey, if I move from this particular area, will you still be visiting me? So it is affecting your you know, there is all that peer pressure and everything. So it must be a bold and deliberate move that you have to make as an individual, knowing that where you are probably does not affect your friend, it affects you and your family.
And let me also add, on the other positive side is that if you apply this rule, the 20%, remember we are keeping it for investments, savings and investments.
Exactly.
So you're not only making sacrifices today, but you're also putting aside 20%, which we will later tell you how you can invest.
Exactly.
And generate more income. And that income we generate will add to that 50,000 we talked about, the hypothetical 50,000. And might be after a year, we are not talking of 50,000, you'll now be budgeting on 60 or 70,000. So that's why this rule is very, very important. It's actually not only just a cost-cutting measure, but it's also a way of ensuring you have something to save to better your situation tomorrow. So that's very important for the viewer to understand. Now, we have a caller from Isili. Thank you for watching us all the way from Isili, saying you're getting us loud and clear. And I am Mohammed, that's the name. For someone like me living paycheck to paycheck, what budgeting strategies can help me get ahead and build savings?
Very good. Thank you, Mohammed, for tuning in. So we have set some general rules here where it comes to budgeting. And incidentally, you'll find for Mohammed and our other listeners, is that it is not only you who is maybe struggling from paycheck to paycheck. So number one thing that I recommend is that you call yourself for a meeting. So you have not been saving, you have not been living within your means. So you have to first acknowledge that this is my situation, which I don't like. You start there. If you have not come to that break in your life where you're having a tete-a-tete with yourself or with a significant other, then you will never embark on the journey of starting to save or to live within your means. So that is where you start. And then you're now going to practically list the areas that your money is going to. They are, we call them what eats up our monies. So you have to practically ask yourself, what is taking the bulk of my money? And thirdly, for me, do you have the boldness to make new decisions? Very important, and it is personal. So you must have the boldness to make new and radical decisions. Say, I have been spending an extra 20,000 shillings with weekend visits. Are they important? Are they just depleting the resource that I don't even have? Because sometimes we have to borrow to impress other people. So you're already getting into your future budget, maybe hoping that you will have a pay increment the second half of the year. Maybe hoping that you're going to have a mid-year bonus. That is what is going to cater for this. Maybe you have borrowed from a friend, or you've gotten into a kind of a lifestyle where it is reciprocal. So this weekend you're treating me, next weekend I'm treating you, and so on and so forth. So you have gotten into a roller coaster, which is now badly damaging your finances. So make bold decisions, I'd say, as point number 3. And then fourthly for me, now enlist completely, now come to a point where you're saying, I need a new lifestyle. This is how I can live within my budget of 100,000 shillings, practically taking care of your needs, taking care of your wants, and finally taking care of your savings.
If I hear you correctly, you have to be intentional and bold about it.
Exactly.
Now, Mary from Githumu, we hear you loud and clear. You say our struggles as a couple, so this is a couple, has mainly been sticking to household budgeting. How can we collaborate effectively on creating and sticking to a joint household budget?
Good. Collaborating and sticking.
Yes.
I get those two very important points. So, and you're not alone. I want to encourage you. A lot of couples, the area of finances becomes quite a difficult area to delve into. So number one, I'd say for a couple, do not make budgeting a point of fighting. So there are people who approach budgeting like, you Washington, you never want us to budget. So if you approach it from a point of war, as human beings, we are bound to resist what hurts us. So number one thing I'd want to advise you is, do not make it a point of war. Make it a point of discussion. A point of discussion, and that would determine then, it will determine what time you talk about it. And you also have to look out for things that can distract such a good discussion. So if you're going to go and discuss that issue while drinking with friends, then it is probably not the most appropriate thing. So look out for a situation where you can talk to your spouse in a good way so that they get the sense of it. Do not fight about it. Secondly, for me, how do you stick? How do you get to that good formula, that good habit, and stick to it? Number one, I say, do not beat yourself so hard. Start somewhere and grow with time. Now, last time we said that ideally we should save 20%. But I gave a disclaimer here. We said you can grow it to 20%. So if you're able to start at 10 now,
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. So do not make it a fight that we said we are going to spend 20, we are going to save 20,000 and now we have only saved 10,000. No, appreciate your spouse for the effort that they have made and encourage them in wisdom and praying to God that they are going to live up to that. Of course, it helps when you have follow-up meetings about it. Now, however you choose to do the meetings, you know, some people will choose to have a lunch after church or whatever it is, or after work. Just talk about it nicely, but it is important that you have follow-ups so that, you know, you can always get the commitment from your spouse that they are willing. And if they are not willing, or if there is a hindrance, talk about it and make sure that this is a project that you're going to carry out throughout.
Wonderful. Yeah. Now we have Rose. Rose is actually asking a very interesting follow-up question to what you just described. Yeah. And Rose is saying, as a wife who is just at home, this is a housewife,
Yes.
Do I really need to budget for anything if my husband provides everything?
Rose, that is a very wonderful question, and really that is where wisdom lies. If you are a stay-home mother, it does not mean you have no income. It actually means that you have a shared income with your husband. And you will find in some homes, Rose says that the husband takes care of everything, but in some homes, the husband will provide 50,000 shillings, for example, and say, this is for all the needs of the home. Yeah. So depending on how you do it, like in your example, you said your husband is taking care of everything. It is still important that your husband is able to save, because when he saves, it is for you as a family. In fact, you're very lucky that your husband is taking care of everything. So please help him also, if he has not gotten into this, to appreciate that the aspect of expenses is good and taken care of, but then are they thinking about your savings? And a very important point for a stay-home mother here is, for example, when it comes to retirement savings, which we are going to be talking about in depth much later. You see, for now he's working. So even if he's employed in a permanent and pensionable job, it is only him that is able to save within the salary that the company provides. How about you, who will also grow old with him? So you need to probably think within the savings element of the home, then are we putting out a next retirement that will also take care of you when both of you will not be working?
Yes. Something I can also add to what Rose is asking is, I believe the husband is providing on a daily basis, most likely, and might be giving assuming 2,000 shillings per day.
Yes.
It's at the discretion of Rose how to spend the 2,000 on a daily basis.
Precisely.
She'll decide whether to spend all of it, or even spend it and still create debt at the shop.
Yes.
Or spend that money and create a balance whereby she'll remain with a saving or might be 1,000 shillings or 500 on a daily basis. So it's at her discretion whether to budget or not, to save or not, to spend all that money or not. And my advice to her is, whatever you get from your husband, don't spend the whole of it. Put aside something.
Yes.
Because what if your husband calls you tomorrow and he's sick and you have to go get an Uber and you're expecting him to provide you money and the guy is very, very sick? What happens next? So now we come to somebody who is asking here. He's saying, this is Manasseh. Manasseh, I've seen your question. You're watching from Joska. Thank you very much. He's saying, with irregular and fluctuating income, like most of us today, what are some of the best practices that can help maintain financial stability?
Very good. Now, you find yourself in a space that a good percentage of Kenyans find themselves in, where they have to depend on very irregular incomes. Number one, first is to appreciate that you have a source of income. Now, if you have a source of income that is irregular, we would encourage you to also save from that irregular income. So if your income comes, say you are a contractor and you're probably paid once the contract is done, then it is from that contract that you will make that savings. Now, I know that when it comes to, for example, the 50% of the things that we have to take care of, then practically then we are saying, if you're going to be paid every 3 months, or your income will come irregularly after 2 months, something like that, then plan for those 2 months. Plan for those 2 months. So this one who is getting their income on a monthly basis, then
regular.
we are saying they are regular. Plan on a monthly basis. This one who is irregular, also plan it according to how the income comes in. But the bottom line, we are saying make sure there is an element of savings at the end of the day, even if your income is coming in an irregular basis. And two, if you can, within the period that you do not have that regular income, if you can create another source of passive income, if you can create another source of passive income, then it helps to regularize your spending and your saving ability, which is important.
Okay. Maybe we'll take one or 2 minutes because some of this you've answered. This is a lady watching us from Facebook. Thank you for watching us from Facebook. Please make sure you also share, like, and comment. And he's saying, Dr. Mungai, I love the show and I'm watching from Facebook. I work and get 350 shillings a day. How do I budget? And by the time I get home, after doing shopping for supper and breakfast, I only have 50 shillings left. I don't pay rent because my husband is a caretaker. So she has 350. By the time she reaches home, I'm back in a 50.
All right.
How does she budget?
Good. I will ask you to start with the 50. So you have taken care of the needs. There is nothing you can do about that. But there is this 50. Now, the reason I mentioned this 50 is to mean that there is no little money to save. And two, we are also saying we want to be very practical. So I will not ask you to go and borrow money from friends so that you can put it in a savings. We are saying, look at practically what can remain. If out of the 350, there is one way or the other that you can minimize that expense, then push it back to savings. But if there isn't, then that 50 is a starting point.
Okay. Now, is there a possibility that someone's personality type and behavioral tendencies can impact their budgeting approach? Please help.
Precisely. I think there is a point that we probably might come to at a point where we talk about personalities and how we spend. So, yes, like you put it, our personalities many times contribute a great percent of how we look at money, of how we spend our money. And it is very important. Now, I want to just cite, for example, we call the sanguines the happy sanguines.
Happy?
Yes.
Okay.
So, if you are a sanguine, a happy sanguine, there is a tendency to over-celebrate achievement. Whether it is your salary, whether it is a bonus, whether it is an opportunity. When you're a sanguine, it is a good personality, but you have a tendency to over-celebrate. Now, when you understand who you are, then you ask yourself difficult questions. We said in our last program, before you start spending the money, first put it away.
Put it away.
Put it away.
Okay.
If you are a sanguine, and many of us are, then we come from the bank, we're loaded with 20,000 shillings to the next mall. And you are seeing every aspect of a new thing. A new shoe, a new hairdo, a new, all this. So, but if you had left the money in the bank and just decided, let me go to the mall, but I just want to see, I want to make a decision once we are home. Then you have contained a bit of the emotional excitement about the spending. So, and then you also find there are people who are very reserved, like the cholerics. Now, in our previous program, we said, you are also not supposed to keep all the money. Have you heard about people who, after they have died, it was found out that there was 20 million shillings in the account. Nobody got to know about it, but their children have hardly anything to even put on. That is also not godly. So it is important then that you understand your personality. And because many times we will attract people who are of a different personality. That is how God made us. Then it is important that you benefit from the personality of your partner, or even seek professional help so as to manage your money, and so that your money spending habit is not entirely affected by your personality.
Wonderful. I think we'll delve deeper soon on this. It's quite interesting. But one last question before we break. Should I worry that my financial education and literacy can affect me on how to control personal finances? James from Ruaka.
I wouldn't say you shouldn't worry, but you should be concerned. It is important that you understand and you realize that knowledge gives us power. Even the scriptures would say in the book of Hosea that my people perish for lack of knowledge. So when you have the knowledge, there are better decisions that you'll be able to make. You realize that even those better decisions that you make as a parent impact positively on your children. When your children realize that you're not an impulse buyer, then it is easier to educate them not to be impulse buyers. But when we ourselves are impulse buyers, then it's something that we can easily pass to those ones that look up to us. So do not be worried, James, but be concerned and seek out information. You can reach out to us through this program and just get practical ways of even walking out of a debt situation, or even how to become a better steward of the monies that God has given us.
Wonderful. I think, viewers, we are running out of time, and it's been quite engaging. We've not even finalized what we wanted to cover today, but we'll be with Dr. Washington Kahoro next week, same time, same station. So please keep on being tuned to what we are offering you, and always engage us, and we'll be here to take the questions that you have. Enoch, what's your take on all this before you give us your parting shot?
Well, thank you so much, Doctor, and I appreciate Dr. Washington for today's discussion. You realize today I was really following keenly, because when you talk about personal financial management, the challenge today is that most of the financial advisors we have, they don't give us full information. You know, they just give us scanty information about it. It has left the young people, you know, moving to and fro, you know, failing here and there, and that has also led to the people who have the power getting to focus so much on the young people with hard lenses, because they tell young people you are spending a lot of money, you must live in your means, within your means. So it is so hard on them that they don't give them a solution. But I love today's discussion because it has literally given us the roadmap of how to manage this money when it comes in. Because the juxtaposition is about saving. Most people, you know, it is easier to tell me to save 1,000 shillings if I am earning 10,000 every day. Yeah. But when you hear our viewers, one of them is just earning 350. You know, now telling that person to save a 50 he has, it could be challenging. And realize that is the majority of the young people, or the people who, you know, are low income earners and things like that. So when you now elaborate more on how to increase your income, increase the sources that bring in money, that one has been my takeaway today. You know, and I believe, Doctor, we need to get more time to enlighten the young people on how to increase your income, because I believe that is the only way out for now. Because if someone has a very short, limited income, and then you are telling them to save this much and things like that, it could be a challenge. But I'm so excited for Kingdom Business Network, because we are literally handling, breaking the barrier that has been limiting people from breaking through financially. So that is my takeaway for sure.
I like what Enoch is saying, because yes, we are here telling people how to budget, but some of them have very, very little income.
Yes, yes.
But viewer, follow us, because on the other side we'll also help you to how to increase your income, your revenues, because we want to increase the size of the pie. so that it can also be divided properly. Because now when you're talking of how to split 50 shillings per day, really we are not helping that person. But we need to help that person on how he or she can increase the size of the pie, the size of income, and an investment. What's your parting shot, Dr.?
So it's been a pleasure being here. So number one, I have just two things maybe to finish with. One, we are saying, live within your means. And you realize that God is faithful. His word tells us that if you are faithful with little, God will make you to have even more. So live within your means for now, being faithful with the little that you have or with the much that you have, and you're only bound to increase. Number two, there is no right time to start saving. The right time is now. So whichever place you are, whichever level of income that you have, please start as small as you can start now or as big as you can start now and grow it progressively.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kahoro, for being with us and for that insightful talk. Any last parting shot from you?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I want to appreciate Dr. Kahoro for the generous information that you have really shared with us today. I'm very excited. And I will quote just one gentleman. He is a philosopher. He made a statement and said, the 80% of the results that you have come from the 20% of the actions that you take or what you do. So having this information concentrated right here, I am very sure if we utilize it very well, we are going to be able to succeed out there. As I conclude this, I want to just remind us, we are going to be doing the Men of Destiny annual conference. It's coming next month. I am very sure that if you're a gentleman out there, you want to succeed in these matters of finances, even spiritual prosperity is key. So it's important that if you're around Nairobi, we are going to have people coming from other countries, Uganda to be specific. I know one special gentleman. If you really follow us on our television and our social handles, you are going to see the entire plan. But I want to invite you on behalf of the Men of Destiny of Overcoming Faith Church. Please come and let us enrich ourselves, not only matters physically, financially, but also the spiritual part is also very key. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
With that, it's been our pleasure being in your houses, in your offices, on your laptops, on your mobile phones. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and God bless you very much.